This is Africa, full of dollars and danger. Tonight, an unprecedented look inside the world's final investment frontier. The world's #1 reserves of diamonds are here in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And copper, copper, copper. Libya is sitting on the mother lode, the biggest oil reserves in Africa. And it's the good stuff, the light, sweet crude that America's refineries crave. Lagos is teeming with people. The financial capital of Africa's largest oil exporter is a mega city of potential consumers. It's the most watched event on Earth. South Africa will host Africa's first ever World Cup in 2010. Nearly 100,000 fans will fit in Soccer City, and that means big money. And up to 30% of the world's oil goes through the Suez Canal. More proof Africa's open for business. Delta's offering nonstop flights from New York to Dakar, Senegal. The world's largest airline flying in the face of the global economic storm.
We are continuing to look at and will continue to expand in Africa.
Delta is not alone. Dozens of American companies exploring Africa's riches, a continent 3 times the size of the U.S., home to 1/6 of the world's population, and more valuable commodities than anywhere else, including the world's #1 cache of diamonds, gold, platinum, even cocoa, and oil. Right now, Africa sells more black gold to the United States and China than the Middle East. Even during the crisis, investors answered Africa's siren call. Foreign investment in Africa surged 16% to more than $60 billion last year, while it plunged 23% worldwide. But those riches come with risk. From civil wars to armed gangs and pirates, this may be the most dangerous place in the world for business. Here in the Gulf of Guinea, Nigerian militants routinely attack people and pipelines. It costs more to insure a ship from piracy here than off the coast of Somalia. Physical danger and financial fear. The economic crisis crushed the commodity prices Africa relies on. So why, when hopes for a more prosperous Africa have been dashed so many times before, do investors believe it's different this time? We met Chicago-based real estate investor Quentin Primo in Lagos. Forbes lists him as one of the 10 richest black Americans. Primo says his gut tells him Africa is finally ready for big-time development.
It's a classic global emerging market. It's full of population, nearly 1 billion people in the continent, making it one of the largest continents in the world. It has a very young population. The overall population is growing at 2 to 3%. It is a market that has tremendous demand, but very, very slim supply.
You're an investor. You're out, you have to make money. What kind of returns do you expect to get in Africa?
A typical equity investment in a real estate project here would produce returns of 40 to 50%.
40 to 50%?
Yeah. There is explosive demand given population growth, and there's nothing here. So a city like Abuja, the capital city, has Nigeria has 4 to 5 million people and 1 decent hotel. And that hotel runs a 98% average occupancy and very, very little housing, very little adequate housing. So housing for low, moderate, high-income individuals, first and foremost. Secondly, commercial. There are no hotels. The office product is shoddy. There are no real malls. I mean, all these things create, all these opportunities are ones that we will pursue.
Later on, Primo tells us there's another reason he's focused on Africa now.
Having Barack Hussein Obama as president of the United States, having African roots, has awakened interest in this continent.
And what about the role of race? You're an African American.
Absolutely.
Does that make you more interested in putting money here, or is that not a fair thing to say?
It absolutely affects my perception of this continent. When I first came to Africa, it was like coming home.
Obama visited Kenya shortly before announcing his candidacy.
I am so proud to come back home.
American billionaire Bob Johnson, founder of Black Entertainment Television, BET, and now full-time investor, can't think of a better boost for African investing than Obama. He started putting money in a few years ago, opening a resort this month in Liberia, a country founded by freed American slaves.
Because you take a risk, you have to expect very high returns. You have no competition. You're likely not to have competition for many years. Once you do that and you open up a hotel with 87 rooms, you're pretty much the only game in town. There's such an opportunity for returns. There's such an opportunity to get in first and to take advantage of the rich minerals. So when I think of sub-Saharan Africa, I think of a huge, vast middle-class population waiting to happen, much as what's happening in India, for example.
So who are the Africans making the growth dream come true? One of them is Wale Tinubu. He's the CEO of Owando, Nigeria's largest independent energy company. It distributes 20% of Nigeria's gasoline. Tinubu, born and raised in Nigeria, studied in London, practicing law briefly before deciding business was a better way to make a mark and make money.
I really wanted to be on the proactive side because there was so much that needed to be fixed in Nigeria, and I just didn't want to be in the background. I mean, the country has substantially changed, and it's changing. I mean, and so I wanted to be part and parcel of that revolution occurring.
Well, what's the time frame to look at for this country? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 25 years that you said of investment that were needed in the Niger Delta?
Honestly, I think it's possible. The whole idea of Vision 2020, which is to be one of the 20th largest economies in 20 years, is possible.
How tough is it to do business in Nigeria?
Very tough, but the returns too are incredible. I mean, we've grown in 14 years from a company with probably $100 to a company that did $3 billion in revenues last year and employs over 1,000 people and is represented right across the value chain.
So what sort of returns, when you say it's tough but the returns are worth it, what sort of returns have you been able to get?
I mean, year on year we do 50%, and now if our cost of capital is 25% per annum and we achieve a 50% growth rate year on year, then you can imagine the sort of returns that are available in this economy.
Tinubu made the big leagues, but he's just one of an increasing number of people educated overseas coming home. Nahel Elabrash was born in Libya, but spent 25 years in Canada and Europe. He told me why he came back to Tripoli to be a stockbroker.
You could make big money. You could make a lot of money. I mean, there are people that made money already, and it's kind of surreal. And the good is yet to come.
What makes you smile? You got opportunity.
Yeah, an opportunity, exactly. And it's an opportunity you don't want to miss for anybody in the stock market, especially for a beginning stock market like Libya stock market.
It's a similar story for Obinna Ikizi. He grew up in Nigeria and came to America for college, playing basketball at the University of Maryland. Then he achieved the American dream, playing in the NBA.
Ikizi with a steal. Ikizi on the breakaway. Ikizi with a jam.
But he gave it up to come home to Lagos. The 33-year-old using his own money to launch Zeep, the first online company focused on the African travel market. He hopes it will be Nigeria's Orbitz.
Obviously, there's a large population of Africans living in the U.S. Over 1.4 million people living in the U.S. that are African-born, and I'm sure that's going to continue to grow. And we're trying to cater to that population, to that market.
And you decided to be an entrepreneur here in Nigeria. I mean, you could have done the same thing, really, from the United States if you wanted to.
Yes.
But you chose to come home.
I chose to come home because I saw the opportunity here in Nigeria. I felt like, well, there's a huge opportunity coming back home to help develop my country and my continent.
And while Nigeria is known as one of the most corrupt nations on earth, it's also home to more than 150 million people, the 8th most populous country.
Africa as a whole lags only China and India in population. That's nearly 1 billion consumers for products such as Coke. Coca-Cola's Africa chief says after 80 years, Coke is still in growth mode.
There's probably about 80 million people who consume our products every day. There's probably another 200 million people who consume it on a monthly basis. Yep. So I see about 500 million people who can still be
untapped consumers
to get better access to our products.
The opportunity is there, but one thing is certain. The returns have to be sky high to lure investors to what sometimes quite literally is a dark continent.
The city behind me is one of the biggest in the world. Lagos is home to nearly 20 million people, and at night it's virtually dark. Forget about streetlights. Nigeria, the largest oil exporter in Africa, faces a power crisis.
That fact's shocking, considering 98% of Nigeria's export revenues come from oil. And Africa's infrastructure crisis is both problem and opportunity for investors. Coming up, powering a continent takes pavement too. We go inside the biggest infrastructure project in Africa, run by Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi.
And one American company taking on China and winning in Africa's most war-torn country.
This CNBC program is brought to you by ServPro.
Bill, a pipe's burst. Water's everywhere.
Did you turn the water off?
Sure.